The enormous broadcast tower stood tall against Earth's horizon, its metallic spire reaching toward the stars like a finger pointing at those who might be watching. Around the base of the tower, technicians worked with quiet intensity, checking and rechecking systems for what would be humanity's most important transmission. Captain James Walker strode across the control room floor, his uniform crisp and his posture rigid. At 45, his face showed the weathering of someone who had fought in the Third Invasion. A long scar ran from his left temple to his jaw, a permanent reminder of the battle for Denver. "All systems ready, Captain," said Lieutenant Anna Garcia, her fingers dancing across the control panel. "We're set to broadcast on all known frequencies, including those we captured from the sworn ships." Walker nodded. "And the translation matrices?" "Loaded, sir. The message will automatically convert to any language patterns we've encountered in the past invasions." The room fell silent as Walker positioned himself before the broadcast array. Behind him, a large window revealed the rebuilt skyline of New Washington. The city glittered with the fusion of human and alien technology, a testament to humanity's ability to adapt and overcome. Defense Minister Robert Lewis entered the room, followed by representatives from each continental alliance. They had all agreed on the message, a rare moment of global unity born from shared trauma and determination. "You may begin when ready, Captain," Lewis said, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. Walker took a deep breath and nodded to Garcia. A red light blinked on, signaling that his words would now travel outward, racing through the void at light speed, carrying humanity's declaration to any who might hear it. "This is Captain James Walker of the United Earth Defense Fleet. This message is directed to all spacefaring civilizations capable of reaching our world." His voice was clear and measured, with no hint of fear or uncertainty. "Earth has withstood 3 separate invasion attempts over the past century. The coalition forces in 2089, a hive collective in 2114, the Void Swarm in 2132. In each case, we fought back. In each case, we survived. In each case, we learned." Walker's eyes hardened as he continued. "We have studied your weapons. We have mastered your technologies. We have adapted your shield systems and improved upon your faster-than-light drives. The ships we destroyed have become the foundation of our defense network." On screens around the room, images appeared of Earth's orbital platforms, massive structures bristling with weapons systems harvested from downed alien vessels. The lunar defense base, now a fortress of hybrid technology. The Mars colonies, transformed into forward outposts. Humanity is no longer divided. We stand as one people, defending one world. We seek peaceful contact with other civilizations, but we will no longer tolerate aggression against our planet or our species. Walker paused, letting the silence emphasize his next words. "This is not a plea. This is not a negotiation. This is a warning. Earth is protected. Any hostile approach to our solar system will be met with immediate and overwhelming force." The representatives around the room nodded in silent agreement. The scars of previous invasions had taught them that in the cosmos, only strength was respected. "We have buried too many of our people. We have rebuilt our cities too many times. There will not be a 4th invasion of Earth." Walker's voice remained level, but grew more intense. "To those watching from the stars, we extend an open hand to peaceful travelers and honest traders. But to those who come with weapons and conquest in mind, know this: we're ready and waiting." The broadcast ended. Walker stepped back from the array as the transmission continued its automated cycle, repeating in the background. Defense Minister Lewis approached and placed a hand on Walker's shoulder. "It's done. Now we see who listens." Far above Earth, the message raced outward through the blackness of space, carrying humanity's final warning to the stars. The great observation chamber of the Galactic Council hung suspended in space, a crystal sphere orbiting the neutral world of Nexus Prime. Inside, 37 different species represented the major powers of the known galaxy. They watched in silence as Earth's message played for the third time. "Well," said Council Elder Dren, his scaled skin shifting from blue to a troubled purple, "that is quite the declaration." His six-fingered hand tapped against the translucent table as the human captain's face faded from the central display. The council members stirred, their various appendages and communication organs expressing concern, interest, or in some cases, amusement. "They survived the void swarm?" asked Representative Morrow, her crystalline form glittering under the chamber lights. "That alone should give us pause." Elder Dren rose to his full height, towering over most of the gathered delegates. "These humans have now declared themselves a military power without even understanding the political landscape they enter. They speak of peace while brandishing weapons. Typical behavior from an immature species." Intelligence Director Cora moved forward from the shadows at the edge of the chamber. Unlike most of the ornately dressed council members, she wore a simple gray uniform. Her nearly human appearance was offset by her silver eyes and the delicate gill slits along her neck. "With respect, Elder," she said, "I believe you misinterpret their message." "Do I?" Dren's skin darkened further. "They broadcast threats across all frequencies." Cora activated her own display, showing images captured from Earth's 3 invasions, cities in flames, desperate battles, humans fighting with primitive weapons against advanced technology. "These people have never been the aggressors," she said. "Each invasion came without warning or provocation. The Coalition sought their resources. The Hive wanted test subjects. The Swarm attacked simply because Earth was in their path." She displayed new images of rebuilt human cities, showing the remarkable recovery. In each case, humans not only survived but adapted. They used salvage technology to advance centuries within decades. Their warning isn't aggression. It's a traumatized species saying enough. The council chamber buzzed with low conversations. Several members appeared swayed by Cora's argument. "The humans could be valuable allies," added Representative Tull, his mechanical voice echoing from his environmental suit. "Their adaptability is impressive." Elder Dren made a dismissive gesture. "They are dangerous and unpredictable. I propose we establish a containment zone around their system. No contact, no trade, no." An alert chimed through the chamber, cutting off Dren's words. A new hologram appeared, showing a fleet of warships departing from the outer rim. "Hegemony vessels," Cora said, her voice tight. 26 capital ships moving toward Earth's sector. The room erupted in alarm. "Commander Vex wouldn't dare," said Representative Morrow. "The Council has not authorized any military action." "The Hegemony no longer seems concerned with Council authorization," replied Cora, studying the fleet's trajectory. "These readings suggest they began their journey almost immediately after receiving Earth's transmission." Far from the council chamber, aboard the massive dreadnought Inevitable Victory, Commander Vex studied the human message with cold interest. His red pupilled eyes narrowed as the Earth captain finished speaking. "Ready and waiting," Vex repeated, a sharp smile revealing pointed teeth. "How quaint." His second-in-command approached cautiously. "The Council will object to this operation." "Commander." "The Council debates while opportunities pass," Vex said. "These humans have technology scavenged from 3 different advanced cultures. Imagine what we could do with such resources under proper management." He turned to the navigation officer. "Set course for the Sol system. Maximum speed." As the Hegemony fleet accelerated to faster-than-light travel, Vex watched the stars blur around his viewport. "Let's see how ready these humans truly are." The massive underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains hummed with activity. Once built to shelter government officials during the Cold War, it had been transformed into Earth's primary defense coordination center after the first invasion. Admiral Thomas Reed walked through the central command hub, his weathered face reflected in dozens of holographic displays. At 62, Reed had fought in all 3 invasions and bore the physical reminders: a cybernetic right arm from the Coalition War and enhanced lungs after the Hive's biological weapons. "Status report," he said, stopping at the main tactical display. Colonel Jackson, head of the Orbital Defense Network, straightened. "The lunar platforms are at 93% capacity, Admiral. The final upgrades to the shield generators should be complete within 48 hours. Reed nodded, studying the holographic representation of Earth's defenses. The blue dots representing orbital platforms formed a protective shell around the planet. The larger red triangles showed the more heavily armed lunar bases. And the Mars colony. General Peters reports the gravity manipulation weapons are operational. They've successfully tested them against asteroid targets." Reed allowed himself a small smile. The gravity weapons were humanity's newest advantage. Technology neither captured nor copied, but invented by combining principles learned from all three invasion forces. "Sir," Jackson added hesitantly, "some of the colony leaders are questioning whether broadcasting our defensive capabilities was wise. They believe we've made ourselves a target." "We were already a target," Reed replied firmly. "The difference is now we're choosing the terms of engagement." Across the complex in the research wing, Dr. Emily Wilson stood before her team of scientists, pointing to the pulsing light on her display. "The quantum entanglement is stable," she announced, her voice carrying the excitement she couldn't suppress. "We've managed to establish instantaneous communication between Earth and Mars." Her team broke into applause. The achievement was monumental. A communication system that couldn't be intercepted or jammed because it didn't use traditional signals. The paired quantum particles transmitted information instantaneously regardless of distance. One of the younger scientists raised his hand. "What's the application timeline, Dr. Wilson?" "Admiral Reed wants the system integrated into our defense grid immediately," she replied. "Within a month, all major military installations will be connected. Eventually, every ship and platform will have a quantum communication node." Meanwhile, in orbit above Earth, Captain Marcus Green floated through the newly constructed bridge of the UES Defender. The ship represented humanity's first true warship built with integrated alien technology, rather than hastily retrofitted systems. "Engine status," Green asked his chief engineer. "The hybrid drive is operating at peak efficiency, Captain," replied Engineer Torres, her hands dancing over the control panel. "The Coalition's fuel system combined with the Swarm's propulsion design gives us 3 times the power of our previous vessels." Green ran his hand along the smooth surface of the command chair. "And the shields." "The modified hive shielding can absorb energy weapons completely. Physical projectiles still pose some threat, but significantly reduced." Green nodded, gazing out the viewport at Earth below. Hundreds of ships like the Defender were under construction in orbital shipyards. Thousands of smaller defensive craft were already patrolling the solar system. Back in the Mountain Command Center, Admiral Reed received an urgent message from the long-range detection system established in the Kuiper Belt. "Unknown objects approaching the solar system, sir," reported the sensor operator. "Their energy signatures don't match anything in our database." Reed's expression remained calm, but his artificial hand clenched slightly. "Alert all commands. Bring defense platforms to standby status. Do not engage unless fired upon." He turned to his communications officer. "And contact Captain Walker. Tell him it appears someone received our message." Throughout the solar system, humanity's defenses quietly shifted to high alert. The warning had been given. Now they would see who had been listening. The orbital station Unity rotated slowly against the backdrop of Earth's blue sphere. Originally built as a civilian research platform, it had been hastily retrofitted with diplomatic facilities when the approaching vessels had responded to humanity's broadcast with a simple message: "We come to talk." Captain Walker stood at the observation window, watching as the sleek alien ship approached. Unlike the aggressive designs of previous invaders, this vessel had an almost organic appearance, with smooth curves and surfaces that seemed to shimmer with internal light. "Nervous, Captain?" asked Defense Minister Lewis, who had joined him at the window. Walker shook his head. "Cautious. There's a difference. The ship is requesting docking clearance, announced Lieutenant Garcia from her console. Their language translation seems perfect, almost too perfect. Grant permission, Lewis ordered. But maintain defense protocols. 1 ship or 100, we take no chances. As the alien vessel connected with Unity's docking ring, armed security teams took positions in the corridors. Their weapons were visible but lowered, a careful balance between caution and hostility. The airlock cycled open with a soft hiss. A moment of tension stretched as the inner door slid aside, revealing the first diplomatic delegation Earth had ever received from the stars. Ambassador Lyra stepped through the doorway first. Her appearance was startlingly close to human. Bipedal with 2 arms and a face that followed familiar patterns. Only her pale blue skin, large almond-shaped eyes, and the delicate ridges along her temples marked her as alien. "I bring greetings from the Galactic Council," she said, her voice melodic but clearly understandable. "I am Ambassador Lyra, appointed to establish peaceful dialogue with Earth." Walker stepped forward. "Captain James Walker, United Earth Defense Fleet. This is Defense Minister Lewis." He gestured to his companion. Lyra inclined her head in greeting. "Your message was received by many worlds, Captain. Some with concern, others with respect." Her eyes found the scar on his face, and something like understanding flashed across her features. The group moved to the station's conference room, where a large oval table had been prepared. Earth's representatives sat on one side, Lyra and her 3 aides on the other. "Let me be direct," Lyra began once they were seated. "Your world exists in a complex political landscape you know nothing about. The 3 forces that attacked your planet were acting without council authorization." Lewis leaned forward. "Are you saying there's some form of galactic government that could have prevented these invasions?" "The Council maintains peace between hundreds of species across thousands of worlds," Lyra explained. "But our jurisdiction has limits. Rogue elements like the Coalition operate beyond our reach. The Hive acts on biological imperatives we struggle to contain. And the Swarm," she paused, "the Swarm answers to no one. Yet you allowed them to attack an inhabited world," Walker said, his voice level but hard. One of Lyra's aides, a tall being with crystalline features, spoke up. "Earth was unknown to us before the Coalition's expedition. Your world exists in a sector rarely traveled." "Convenient," muttered Garcia from her position near the door. Lyra spread her 4-fingered hands in a gesture of openness. "I understand your skepticism, but I am here to offer Earth membership in the Council, protection, access to technologies beyond what you've salvaged, the chance to join a community of peaceful worlds." Before Lewis could respond, a sharp alert sounded from Garcia's communication device. The lieutenant's face paled as she checked the display. "Minister, Captain, long-range sensors have detected multiple vessels entering the system, at least 20 large ships, approaching from the opposite vector as Ambassador Lyra's vessel." Lyra stood suddenly, alarm clear on her face. "The hegemony. They must have intercepted your message as well." "The what?" Walker demanded. "A militant faction within Council space," Lyra explained quickly, "led by Commander Vex. They seek to expand their territory and technology by force." "They're ignoring all communication attempts," Garcia reported. "Their weapon systems are active." Walker turned to Lyra, his expression grim. "It seems your peaceful council has failed to prevent yet another attack on our world, Ambassador." Lewis was already activating the emergency communication channel to Earth Command. "Admiral Reed, it appears we're about to test our preparations." Commander Vex stood on the bridge of the inevitable victory, his tall figure casting a long shadow across the command floor. The main view screen showed the Sol system spread before them like a feast waiting to be devoured. "The humans have detected us," reported his sensor officer. "They're transmitting warnings on all frequencies." Vex's lips curled into a smile, revealing pointed teeth. "Ignore them. Continue approach at combat speed." His second-in-command, Officer Krell, moved closer and lowered his voice. "Commander, Our scouts report unusual readings from the outer system. There appear to be energy signatures hidden among the asteroid belt. Primitive defense outposts, no doubt. Vex dismissed with a wave of his hand. The humans have scavenged technology they barely understand. They cannot possibly threaten a hegemony battle fleet. The massive warship pressed forward, leading 25 other vessels toward Earth. Their engines glowed with harsh red light, leaving crimson trails against the blackness of space. They're still not responding to warnings, Lieutenant Garcia reported in the Earth Defense Command Center. Admiral Reed nodded calmly. They've made their choice, then. Initiate Operation Trojan. Throughout the asteroid belt, what had appeared to be ordinary space rocks suddenly changed. Hidden seams split open, revealing sophisticated weapon platforms disguised as asteroids. Hundreds of them activated simultaneously, their energy signatures no longer masked. On the inevitable victory, alarms suddenly blared. Multiple weapons platforms detected, shouted the sensor officer, his confidence replaced by confusion. They were hidden somehow. Our scans didn't. Irrelevant. Vex cut him off. Target and destroy them. Continue our approach. The hegemony ships opened fire, their energy weapons slicing through space toward the revealed platforms. But as the beams struck, something unexpected happened. Rather than exploding, the platforms absorbed the energy, their surfaces glowing briefly before returning fire with the same weapons, now amplified. 3 hegemony vessels erupted in flames as their own weapon signatures returned to them with doubled force. Impossible. Krell gasped. They're using reflection technology. That's beyond. Silence. Vex commanded, his eyes narrowing. Adjust tactics. Launch kinetic weapons instead. The hegemony fleet released thousands of missile-like projectiles, each programmed to evade defensive fire. They streaked toward the asteroid platforms in waves. In the Earth Command Center, Reed watched the approach on the tactical display. Activate gravity wells, he ordered quietly. Throughout the asteroid belt, secondary systems came online. The space between defense platforms shimmered as localized gravity fields activated, catching the incoming projectiles and pulling them into spiraling orbits that ended in collisions with each other rather than their targets. On Unity Station, Ambassador Lyra watched the battle unfold on the emergency displays, her face showing both awe and horror. "How is this possible?" she asked Walker. "The defensive technology you're using, it combines principles from multiple technological lineages that shouldn't be compatible." Walker's scared face remained impassive. "When you fight for survival 3 times, you learn to be creative. Each invader taught us something new. Together, those lessons made us stronger than any single attacker." The hegemony fleet, having lost 7 vessels now, regrouped and pushed forward, past the asteroid belt defense line. Vex stood rigid on his bridge, his earlier confidence replaced by cold fury. "They have clever traps, I'll grant them that," he snarled. "But we still outnumber them. Their homeworld cannot be so well protected throughout. Press the attack." The remaining hegemony ships accelerated toward Mars, where the colony's orbital platforms waited, their weapons systems tracking the approaching threat. "They're not retreating," Admiral Reed observed, despite losing nearly a third of their fleet. "Hegemony commanders never retreat," Lyra explained. "It's considered worse than death in their culture." Reed nodded. "Then they'll face General Peters and the gravity weapons next." He turned to his communications officer. "Alert Mars Defense. The test continues." As the hegemony fleet approached the red planet, they had no way of knowing that humanity had prepared for this moment for years, turning each planet and moon in their solar system into a carefully planned defensive layer. The red dust of Mars swirled in violent patterns as the hegemony fleet entered orbit. 18 warships remained of Commander Vex's once impressive force, their hulls scarred from encounters with Earth's asteroid belt defenses. "Scan for military installations," Vex ordered, his voice tighter than before. His officers detected the change. The commander was no longer treating this as a simple conquest. Multiple structures detected on the surface, reported the sensor officer, but they appear to be civilian in nature. Mining operations, research stations, habitation domes. Vex's eyes narrowed suspiciously. Where are their weapons? As if in answer, the Martian landscape itself seemed to shift. Large sections of the red planet's surface slid aside, revealing massive installations that had been completely hidden beneath artificial terrain. Weapon ports opened like awakening eyes. Targets acquired, announced General Peters from the secure command bunker beneath Olympus Mons. The veteran of the second invasion had lost both legs to the Hive's corrosive weapons, but his tactical mind remained razor-sharp, all gravity manipulation arrays at full power. Peters gave a hand signal, and his weapons officer activated the system with a single command. In space, the hegemony ships suddenly lurched as invisible forces took hold. 3 vessels closest to Mars found themselves being pulled inexorably toward the surface, their engines screaming as they fought against forces they couldn't overcome. What's happening? Vex demanded as his own flagship shuddered. Counter it. We can't, Commander, Krell replied, real fear now evident in his voice. They're somehow manipulating gravitational fields with unprecedented precision. Our engines can't generate enough thrust to break free. 2 ships crashed into the Martian surface, their shields failing as they hit the ground at tremendous speed. A third managed to redirect enough power to its engines to achieve a rough but survivable landing. Vex slammed his fist on the command console. Redirect all power to engines. Break orbit and head for Earth. We'll bypass this trap and strike directly at their homeworld. The remaining ships struggled against the gravitational weapons, but 15 eventually broke free and accelerated toward the blue planet ahead. Their formation was now ragged, their confidence shattered. In Earth's command center, Admiral Reed received the update from Mars. They'd lost 5 more ships, sir, reported the communications officer. The rest are headed our way. Reed nodded calmly. Right on schedule. Deploy orbital defense fleet. Around Earth, hundreds of ships that had been hiding on the dark side of the moon moved into formation. Among them was the UES Defender, Captain Green standing tall on its bridge. All ships, activate quantum shields. Green ordered through the newly installed quantum communication system. Dr. Wilson's invention allowed Earth's forces to coordinate instantaneously without any detectable signals. As the hegemony fleet approached Earth, they found themselves facing a wall of human vessels, each glowing with shield energy adapted from Hive technology. Fire at will. Vex commanded, desperation now edging his voice. Full barrage. Energy weapons and physical projectiles streaked from the hegemony ships toward Earth's defense fleet. The quantum shields absorbed the energy weapons completely, growing brighter with each impact. The physical projectiles slowed dramatically as they entered the shield perimeters, dropping to speeds that made them easily destroyable by point defense systems. Return fire, ordered Captain Green. Targeted disabling shots only. Earth's ships responded with precision strikes, aimed at weapon systems and engines rather than critical systems. 3 more hegemony vessels were crippled, drifting powerless. On the inevitable victory, Vex watched with growing fury as his attack faltered. Enough of this, he snarled. Prepare the planet killer. Krell's eyes widened. Commander, that weapon has never been tested in actual combat. The energy requirements alone cooled. Do it, Vex shouted. These humans must learn their place. The front of the hegemony flagship began to open like a blooming flower, revealing a massive weapon core that pulsed with ominous energy. In the command center, Reed received the urgent warning. Unknown weapon charging on the enemy flagship, reported the sensor officer. Energy readings are off the scale. Reed's artificial hand clenched. Dr. Wilson, is the planetary shield network ready? Yes, Admiral, came the scientist's voice over the comm. But it's never been tested at full capacity. It's about to be, Reed replied. Activate on my mark. As the hegemony weapon reached full charge, casting an eerie light across space, Reed gave the command. Now, around the entire planet, thousands of shield generators activated simultaneously, their energies merging into a shimmering barrier that enveloped Earth completely. The hegemony weapon fired, a blinding beam of concentrated energy that struck the planetary shield head-on. For a moment, the entire system was bathed in brilliant light as energy levels spiked beyond measurable limits. Then darkness fell as every sensor was temporarily blinded by the massive discharge. Silence hung in space as the blinding light faded. On the bridge of the inevitable victory, Commander Vex blinked his 4 eyes, waiting for his vision to clear and the sensor systems to recover. "Damage report," he demanded, his voice hoarse. "Did we penetrate their defenses?" The sensor officer worked frantically at his station. "Systems rebooting, Commander." "I cannot." He stopped suddenly, his hands freezing above the controls. "What is it?" Vex snapped. "Sir," the officer whispered, "look." The main view screen flickered back to life, showing a sight that drained the color from Vex's face. Earth hung untouched in space, its blue oceans and white clouds showing no sign of damage. The planetary shield had held. But that wasn't what caused the silence on the bridge. Surrounding the remaining hegemony vessels were thousands of Earth ships, far more than had been visible before. They had emerged from hiding places throughout the solar system, behind moons, within the rings of Saturn, disguised as debris, or simply cloaked with technology that must have been derived from Void Swarm stealth systems. "Impossible," whispered Krell. "They couldn't have built this many vessels. We would have known." On the UES Defender, Captain Green opened a communication channel to the hegemony flagship. "Commander Vex," he said calmly, "your planet-killer weapon has failed. Your fleet is surrounded. Earth remains untouched." The view screen split to show Admiral Reed in the command center. "This is Admiral Thomas Reed of Earth Defense Command. Your ships are targeted by weapons you cannot detect until they hit. Your shields cannot protect you from our gravity-based attacks. Your retreat paths are blocked." Reed's artificial hand came into view as he leaned forward. "You have one opportunity to surrender. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any hostile action will result in the immediate destruction of your entire fleet." On Unity Station, Ambassador Lyra stood beside Captain Walker, watching the confrontation unfold on the displays. "I have never seen a hegemony fleet defeated," she said softly, "in all my years as a council representative." Walker's scared face showed no emotion. "We warned them. They chose not to listen." The communication from the hegemony flagship finally came through. Commander Vex appeared on screen, his proud posture now stiff with barely controlled rage. "This is not over," he hissed. "The hegemony does not." "The hegemony is not here," Reed interrupted. "Only you are. And you have failed. Your choice, Commander. Live to report your failure, or die believing you were right." A tense minute passed. Then, one by one, the energy signatures of the hegemony vessels diminished as their weapons powered down. "A wise decision," Reed said. "Boarding teams will attach to your vessels shortly. Any resistance will be met with lethal force." As Earth ships moved in to secure the defeated hegemony fleet, Lyra turned to Walker. "Your people have achieved something remarkable," she said, "not just technologically, but strategically. You laid a trap within a trap within a trap." Walker finally allowed himself a small smile. "We had good teachers, unwilling ones, but good nonetheless. Each invasion taught us to think differently." In the Earth Command Center, Dr. Wilson approached Admiral Reed as the tension of battle gave way to the controlled activity of securing victory. "The shield network performed perfectly," she reported, "and the quantum communication system maintained integrity throughout the battle." Reed nodded. "Prepare a full report. The Council representatives should see exactly what we're capable of." Hours later, on Unity Station, an expanded diplomatic meeting took place. Ambassador Lyra was now joined by several emergency envoys, who had arrived through faster-than-light travel after receiving urgent messages about the hegemony's defeat. Defense Minister Lewis addressed the assembled aliens. Earth does not seek conquest or expansion. We want only what we stated in our message, to be left in peace or engaged with as equals. Lyra stepped forward. The Council formally invites Earth to join as a full-member world with all rights and protections that entails. And what guarantees do we have that the next hegemony won't ignore those protections? Walker asked. None, Lyra admitted honestly. But today, you have shown the galaxy what happens to those who threaten Earth. I suspect that will be guarantee enough for some time. As the diplomatic talks continued, news of the battle spread across the stars. Earth's message had been clear, but now it had been proven. Humanity was ready for peace, prepared for war, and would no longer be anyone's victim. The final warning had been fulfilled.